nothing to gain from the disaster in East Palestine, and I had a lot to lose. But I listened to the people of East Palestine, and I stuck my neck out for them, and I'll do the same for the constituents of District 6.
These three are vying for the Republican nomination for Ohio's 6th Congressional District race. And before you vote next week, they will have the opportunity to give their voice on issues that impact you right now on Fox 9.
Good evening. I'm Mark Hyman. We're live at Eastern Gateway Community College in Steubenville. Thank you at home for joining us for this congressional debate for Ohio's 6th Congressional District between Dr. Rick Tsai and Representative Reggie Stoltzfus. You may notice there are three candidates running in this primary. However, after repeated invitations to Senator Mike Rulli, he sent an email to us this afternoon declining to participate. It's up to the voters to decide if and how this affects their vote when they go to the polls next week. Tonight's debate will focus on the policy differences and platform differences between the candidates. There will be no trick or gotcha questions from the panelists. There'll be no showboating by the moderator. This is not cable television news. The podium is at which the candidates are standing, and the order in which they deliver their closing remarks was decided earlier by the candidates drawing cards. The candidates agreed upon tonight's debate format. Asking questions will be Jamie Baker and Dylan Cleland, WTOV 9 anchors. There will be no opening statements. Each candidate has 60 seconds to respond to a question. They each have 5 30-second rebuttals they may use at their discretion to either rebut their remarks of their opponent or to extend their own remarks. However, all rebuttals must be used prior to closing statements. As moderator, I reserve the right to ask a follow-up question if, in my judgment, it's needed to clarify an answer. We have a live studio audience comprised of supporters of both candidates and some undecided voters. I've asked the audience to refrain from reacting to anything the candidates say throughout this evening, with 2 exceptions. One at the conclusion of the debate, and the other is right now when we welcome the candidates. Gentlemen, we have a lot to cover and not a whole lot of time. Let's get started. The first question tonight will come from Jamie Baker. She'll start off with you, Dr. Tsai.
Dr. Tsai, how can this country prevent another East Palestine disaster?
That's a good question. And obviously, someone dropped the jar of pickles, and there's a cleanup on aisle 6. Because we have a candidate that's missing here tonight. That candidate came down to East Palestine twice that I know of. Once to take pictures with a multi-billion dollar railroad, and ignored all attempts from residents to contact him. He came down again when the President of the United States came down and there was a Trump demonstration. He wore East Palestine like cheap bling or cheap jewelry around his neck. And he didn't think it was important enough to come tonight to speak with all of you in the southern part of Ohio. But we are here, and we're here to come to talk to you. How can it be prevented? The first thing I do when I get into office, I'll sign the Railway Safety Act. And then there are things that I will do to prevent. No-fault insurance is a...
Time's expired.
Okay.
Representative, same question.
Well, thank you for the question, Jamie. And thank you, WTOV, for putting this on this evening, and for the folks at home watching, and for you in the live studio audience, thank you for being here. You know, nobody asked for an accident, and East Palestine sure did not ask for an accident, a train derailment. And, you know, I've been to East Palestine twice, visited with Mayor Trent Conaway, and he has shown me around the sites. And, you know, there's a lot of cleanup that still needs done. And I applaud Rick, my opponent here, who's, you know, taking the stand to take the fight on, because, you know, the federal government, Norfolk Southern, needs to make East Palestine whole. And as the next congressman, that's what I intend to do. I've been endorsed by Mayor Trent Conaway. Mayor Trent Conaway has been working very closely with President Trump on getting this resolved, and I intend to do so. I intend to make the folks of East Palestine whole as the next congressman.
Rebuttal?
So here's another guy that wore East Palestine like cheap bling around his neck. He lives not far from us, and I was going to be nice, but since he brought it up, Trent Conaway actually called me and said, Rick, I was going to endorse you, but after the things you said about me over the last year, I just couldn't as a man. He put his ego in front of his constituents. I have an ego, I would put it aside. He thought I was a better man to endorse, but since our mayor never said one thing about our afflicted residents, I spoke out about him all the time. Reggie came down twice, once for the endorsement and once for the Trump demonstration. We never heard from him before that. I'm going to listen to you people, and I will never take credit for something I didn't do. I won't come take a photo op in your town for something I didn't at least try to fix.
Next question will come from Dylan Cleveland. We'll start with you, Representative.
Representative Stoltzfus, it's widely believed foreign nations have been dumping products in the U.S., damaging American industries. As an example, the announced closure of the Cleveland Cliffs Weirton plant will include a loss of nearly 1,000 jobs. Its closure has been blamed on cheap imports. It's been suggested tariffs will save these industries and jobs. Do you agree?
Thank you, Dylan, for the question. You know, first and foremost, we need to protect the American worker. Tariffs can be used for good and bad. We do not want countries dumping, whether it be steel, whether it be lumber, whatever the product may be. We do not want them dumping their product here in America and killing American jobs. So there's a balance there when we put tariffs on and when we don't. And, you know, again, it's a very sad day that Cleveland Cliffs is going to have to potentially lay off 1,000 workers here in the area. That's something I hate to see. As your next congressman, my priorities are going to be to create jobs, to lower taxes, to lower regulations, so that we can be more competitive in the marketplace and that steel manufacturers can thrive here in Ohio and in the U.S.
Doctor, same question.
The president could easily overturn that decision, and I will put so much pressure on him, and I'll rally with my people to let people know that he is not doing things like that. Secondly, when I entice drilling in our area, we're sitting on 400 years of, on the Marcellus Shale, over 400 years of energy independence. I will use my own money, and I will fly to these companies that it actually costs them more to ship their products overseas to us than it does to manufacture them here. I'm a business owner. I built one of the largest chiropractic offices in America. I know how to run a business. I know how to communicate, and I know how to negotiate. I will get it done for you, Ohio. Elect me, Dr. Rick Tsai, D6.
The next question will come from Jamie Baker, and we'll start with you, Dr. Tsai.
Dr. Tsai, in a series of news reports, WTOV 9 has referred to this area as Forgotten Ohio, as business projects such as the new Intel plant are being built elsewhere in the state. How would you use your office to encourage more business development in this local area?
So when I met with county commissioners in Steubenville, and I met with the sewage department and water department, I had a plan very quickly. This Steubenville was once a town of 80,000. It is now 18. It cannot afford with its tax base to keep up its infrastructure. The Army Corps of Engineers owns the whole swath of land in front of the railroad. I want to develop that area, entice developers to come in and entice new tax base of young constituents to come here. And you have 800 abandoned homes. I want to offer no or low interest loans to bring people into those homes, and we're going to create a beautiful community. And I'm going to do that in every county, and I'm going to come listen to you, and I've got answers.
Representative, same question, please.
Well, thank you for the question. And I've been traveling up and down this district. It's big. It's 11 counties. And we've met with county commissioners in every single county, and we've listened to their needs. And there are needs. There are infrastructure needs in every county. This district is very diverse, from Mahoning County down to Washington County. And every county has a different need. In Washington County, we need a sewer line to go to a industrial park so that people can move in there and create jobs. In Mahoning County, we need a gas line that runs from the river to the lake. We need that so that the manufacturers can have natural gas. Right now, they do not. So there's needs throughout the district. All 11 counties have individual needs. Again, it's a very diverse district. And, you know, we put the legwork in. And as the next congressman, I'm going to see that these needs are fulfilled and that the 6th district is being prosperous.
And Representative, we'll stay with you. The next question is going to come from Dylan.
Representative Stoltzfus, all three GOP candidates live in the northern part of the 6th Congressional District. How can you assure voters in the southern portions that you understand their needs?
Thank you for the question, Dylan. And I think my opponent Rick and I being here tonight are showing the folks in Jefferson County that we care about Jefferson County, and someone who's missing does not. And, you know, again, I'll say this again. My team has traveled to all the counties, all the southern counties, spent lots of time meeting with elected officials, constituents, having town halls, and, you know, getting to know folks throughout the 6th District. It's a big area. I love the 6th District. They're my people. They're my people. I live on a 125-acre farm. I raise cattle. A lot of the 6th District is rural farm country. I resonate with these folks very much. I'm one of them. So you can count on it that I am going to be throughout the district all the time. I'm going to be accessible and responsive, just like Bill Johnson was.
Doctor, same question.
Well, I love road trips. So we have an RV, and we're going to use that RV. My wife, unfortunately, you know, one of the things we had to suffer with initially was we couldn't have children. This is now my new baby. I am committed to listening to you up and down this area. And I have, in a very short time, went into many counties and talked with county commissioners and trying to come up with solutions. I am committed to open an office in Marietta. I've already talked to commissioners about that, and I will have an office there so that I'm in touch with the people in the southern part of our state. And I will fight for you. I am very sincere, I'm very genuine, and I'm here tonight to listen, and I'm here asking you for your vote.
And Dr. Tsai will stay with you for the next question.
Dr. Tsai, according to the Association of American Medical Colleges, the U.S. will experience a shortage of 124,000 doctors in the next decade. Rural communities will be hardest hit, and there are many rural communities in Ohio's 6th Congressional District. What should Congress do?
Well, this is very dear to my heart. My college roommate is a 30-year medical physician, emergency room physician. Our medical system is failed. Doctors no longer are paid per patient. It's like communism. And who wants to work harder and longer hours and take times with patients when you have to see a certain amount of patients, and then if you work over that, you're not paid? The whole system needs revamped. Too much for me to talk to in about 60 seconds, but we need to bring power back to the actual working doctor, not the administrators in charge of these hospitals and our medical system. They're overpaid, and our doctors are underpaid, and that's why people do not want to go to medical school anymore. I'm going to fight to change that.
Representative, same question, please.
Well, thank you for the question. And yeah, this is true all across rural Ohio, rural America. And one thing that we can do is incentivize doctors and nurses to come to rural areas. And there's all types of incentives we can give them. But that's the key, is incentivizing doctors and nurses. That way it brings them into these areas. That's where we need them the most. You know, again, rural Ohio is very important. And a lot of times it's forgotten about in D.C. They call it flyover country. Joe Biden, he doesn't even know that rural Ohio exists. And we're going to change that. I'm going to change that when I get to Congress. I'm going to make sure that my colleagues know about rural Ohio, about House District 6 in Ohio along the river, and we're going to make changes.
And Representative will stay with you. The next question will come from Dylan.
Representative Stoltzfus, the cost of basic necessities such as groceries, utilities, and gasoline are a rising concern for nearly everyone. How should Congress address this issue?
Well, thank you for the question, Dylan. You know, our country is $34 trillion in debt right now, $34.2 trillion in debt, with no sign of stopping. We can continue to spend recklessly. We continue to raise the debt ceiling. Ever since Joe Biden took office, everything costs 20% more. You know, some things we need to do is we need to make the Trump tax cuts permanent, because when Donald Trump put the tax cuts in place, it helped families. It gave families more money in their pockets. It helped businesses thrive. And we've got to get Joe Biden out of the White House, and we've got to get Donald Trump in the White House. That's first and foremost. I'm going to work with Donald Trump to make America prosper. I'm going to work with Donald Trump to make Ohio 6 prosper. That's what I'm going to do. By the way, I've endorsed Donald Trump for president, and I'm proud to have done that.
Doctor, your response to the same question, please.
Yeah, and I just public service, I got a message from Michael Rulli. Cheerios are half off. So what we need to do is drill, baby, drill. Again, I'm going back to the Marcellus Shale. We've got over 400 years of energy independence. Once energy prices go up, all your goods go up, and you know that. So I'm going to do what I can to entice more drilling and open up decreased regulations to get that gas out of the ground now.
And J.B. Baker has the next question. We'll stay with you, Doctor.
Dr. Tsai, in a recent Gallup poll, respondents listed immigration as the #1 most important problem facing America. How should immigration be addressed?
Immigration, we need to put the National Guard at the border. We need to finish the wall. And people will say, you're one of those America First racist Republicans because you don't want people in. I want legal immigration. And that includes over the tens of thousands of illegal, unvetted Chinese that are crossing our border right now, in case you think I'm racist. Nobody knows who these people are. There's going to be an attack on America soon. They're stealing our jobs. They're causing tax fraud because a lot of them are working on forged 1099s. And once we close that wall, I will work with ICE to get them out.
Representative, same question, please.
Thank you for the question. You know, the cartels are the big problem here. They're dragging drugs across our border. They're dragging human trafficking across our border. They're getting fentanyl from China. That's killing 200 Americans every day. First and foremost, we need to designate these cartels as terrorists and take them out. We need to work with the Mexican government and get them on our side and help us do this. It's in their best interest. We also need to stop this stupid idea called catch and release, where we catch illegals and we release them into our local communities, just like this local community here. Our law enforcement, they're hamstrung. They can't do anything about it. We've got to get back to we've got to get back to what Donald Trump had, and that's remain in Mexico policy. But we've got to work with the Mexican government to make that happen. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work with Donald Trump, and we're going to get the remain in Mexico policy back in action.
Representative, we'll stay with you. The next question will come from Dylan.
Representative Stoltzfus, some believe the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is not doing enough to protect our environment, while others believe the EPA is too heavy-handed. What are your thoughts?
Thanks for the question, Dylan. You know, it's a balance. The EPA is there to protect us, and, you know, they can also be overburdensome as well. So there's got to be a balance that is struck. And, you know, at the State House, we passed a law to deregulate ephemeral streams. And I'll tell you, if you don't know what an ephemeral stream is, if you drive your tractor through a field and you create a rut, you have now created an ephemeral stream because that rut will now fill up with water, and the EPA has jurisdiction over that, or did in Ohio. So what we did at the State House is we took away the authority for the EPA to have jurisdiction over that ephemeral stream because that was too much power for the EPA to have. You drive your tractor through your field, you create a rut, it collects water, and now the EPA has say over it. That's too much power. There's got to be a nice balance there, and I'm going to work to make sure there's a good balance as the next congressman.
Doctor, same question.
Voters of District 6, if you don't take anything else away from what I say tonight, know this. The EPA is a corrupt entity. I know it firsthand because they're in my town as we speak. I'm known as the Creek Ranger in my local town of East Palestine, and I have put my health at risk exposing the lies and corruption and deceit of the EPA. Many credit me, a nobody, for having the EPA have to extend their map of contamination in our town. These are the same people that told the 9/11 workers to come back that clean up the mess and the people return back to their residence. And you know what happened there. And I hope to God the same thing doesn't happen in East Palestine. I will come down on the EPA so hard, they won't know what hit them. Put me in office, and I will fix things.
The next question comes from Jamie, and we'll start with you, Doctor.
Small business owners, especially here in Ohio, are considered the lifeblood of a community. Each of you is a small business owner. Why should the small business owners of the 6th Congressional District vote for you?
So, if we can send all this money to overseas for useless wars, we can help our people that want to start small businesses. I want to cut regulations. When I opened my office, it took off so quickly because we did such good service. I bought land. It took me over 7 years because of regulations for them to allow me to put a new office there. I'm going to slash those regulations, but more than that, I'm going to offer but low interest loans to new business owners that qualify. And to qualify, you have to be mentored in some type of, in the field that you want to be in, because we see small businesses get into business and a year later they're gone because they don't know what they're doing. I want to institute a program where mentors come in and teach people what they're doing when they open a small business. And in that way, we can thrive.
Representative, same question, please.
Well, thank you for the question. You know, the reason people will trust me as the next congressman is because I am a small business owner. My wife and I started our business 19 years ago in our detached garage. We didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, but we made a go at it. We wanted to live the American dream, and we gave it a shot. And over 19 years, you know, we've grown our business. We now employ around 40 people, and it's a great asset to the community. We pay a lot of taxes, and we're very blessed with our business. But again, we worked hard to get there, and we see day in and day out the regulations that we have to deal with, the taxes that we have to deal with. Just driving, you know, I've got 4 semi-trucks on the road every day. And to keep those trucks on the road and to keep a driver behind the seat, there are so much regulations, it would blow your mind. So as a business owner, I'm going to watch out for the small business owners, and we're going to cut regulations.
Your time's expired. For the next question, we'll start with Dylan will have the question. We'll start with you, Representative.
They respect no race, nationality, sex, ethnicity, religion, or income level. Fentanyl and other synthetic opioids are indiscriminate killers. According to the CDC, over 150 people die every day from overdoses related to synthetic opioids, including fentanyl. What should be done?
Thank you for the question, Dylan. Fentanyl is a killer. And again, I go back to what's coming across our southern border. We've got to close our southern border because these cartels are bringing fentanyl across our border. You know, when you go to China, they actually have pill manufacturers that are making pills that look like real pills that people take. And they're bringing them, shipping them to Mexico. The cartels are bringing them across the border, and they're coming to communities just like this. You all know somebody who's died of a fentanyl overdose. I have. I know somebody. I'm sure all of you have. It's got to stop. It's destroying communities. It's destroying families. We've got to stop these cartels. Again, it's a southern border issue, and the Biden administration has just done nothing to take care of the southern border. I'm going to work with President Trump, and we are going to take care of the cartels, and we are going to seal that southern border off.
Doctor, same question.
So if you want to stop eating potato chips, stop bringing them in your house. If you want people to stop taking drugs, stop bringing it across the border. So the first thing, I agree with Reggie, we need to close that border. But it's more than that. Do you know that 70% of the population is addicted to drugs, started on prescription drugs? We need to tighten in these these pharmaceutical companies, and the doctors that prescribe still continue to overprescribe these drugs. So not a week goes by, I don't lose a family member to fentanyl. We treat hundreds of patients in my office. Just last week, there was a man that got clean. His sister, who's about 40 years old, got married. He had a little too much to drink. Then he went out in Youngstown, Ohio, and partied. He died from fentanyl poisoning. So that is what this girl, his sister, is going to remember the rest of her life, that her brother died on her wedding night. I'm going to clean it up.
We'll stay with you, Dr. Tsai, and the question will come from Jamie.
Dr. Tsai, there is no shortage of jokes about politicians. Poll after poll shows the American public has a very low opinion of Congress. Yet you are running. Why do you want to serve in Congress?
Because of what you're saying. Because they have such a bad reputation. I am a non-politician as of about 4 months ago because I am fed up just like you, D6. I mean, how conservative do you have to be and how serious do you have to be endorsed by Ted Nugent? So more important to me, I am endorsed by all the afflicted people in the businesses that were hurt in East Palestine. You know, these politicians, when I'm looking for endorsements, you know what they're doing? They're endorsing each other, and people are sick of it because they just throw these endorsements around like it's nothing. So people, I'm going to bring integrity and honesty, and I'm going to fight in Washington. I'm going to fight for Ohio and UD6. I am not a politician I am now.
Representative, same question, please.
Thank you for the question. I'm running for Congress because I care about my country. I care about my country deeply, and I want to make sure that the 6th Congressional District is represented by a conservative member like myself, a conservative with a track record. Folks, I have a track record like none other. At the State House, I was ranked #1 out of all 132 members of the General Assembly for my limited government voting record. I'm a conservative, and I've got a track record to prove it. If you know what CPAC is, it's a conservative think tank. They've recently ranked me with 100%. And I've got the highest lifetime rating out of everybody running in this race. But I'll tell you a story. In the State House, we had corrupt politicians, and there's still corrupt people there. Larry Householder was one of them. He's in federal prison right now. He's serving 20 years. I stood up against Larry Householder. I stood up against the lobbyists. The lobbyists don't like me. I'm not their friend. I'm not going to be their friend in Washington.
Time's expired. For the next question, it's going to come from Dylan. We'll start with you, Representative.
There's a national shortage of workers in skilled trade industries, including Ohio's 6th Congressional District. What are your thoughts on this?
Thanks for the question, Dylan. Yes, there is a national shortage, and I will promote career tech because career tech is awesome, and not everybody needs to go to college. College is for some people. Career tech is for others. When I got out of high school, when I was in high school, I knew I did not want to go to college right away. I did go on later on in life, but I knew I wanted to learn a trade. So I took career tech, and I encourage all of our young people throughout Ohio, in District 6, everywhere, take a look at career tech because you can learn a trade and you can make great money when you get out of school. That's what I did, and I took it one step further. I started a business, and that business flourished. And, you know, I can't stress enough that college isn't for everybody. There's options out there. So skilled labor jobs are everywhere. They're growing. They're becoming more and more abundant. So we've got to get our workforce ready for that. We've got to encourage career tech.
Doctor, same question.
So when I was a kid in high school, at 11th and 12th grade, you could choose to go to Votech, and you would take a trade, and you could learn bricklaying, you could learn welding. That is decimated. You know why? Because colleges have pulled the wool over our eyes and enticed kids to take these massive loans to take things like, who knows, social sciences, whatever it might be. I mean, you know, that's important, but a lot of these people aren't made for that, and they want to get out and have a good paying job. So my brothers are lifelong union. One is a millwright about to retire, and one is a carpenter, 43 years that just retired. Yes, I'm a Republican who believes in the unions. They made a good living, and they knew they had a good retirement. And when you do that, when you know you have something waiting for you at the end, you're going to work harder, you're going to have better work morale, and you're just going to be happier in general and have a better home life. So, yeah, I want Votech back in schools.
Jamie, as the next question, we'll start with you, Doctor.
Voters consider constituent services a critical role of their local member of Congress. How would you approach your responsibility toward this?
Okay, so being a non-politician, I apologize. I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you specifically say what that means?
Get grandmother Social Security check. Someone's missing something. Someone has a problem with their child enlisting in the military. Those are constituent services.
So my wife will tell you that patients can reach me all hours of the night. My phone is never shut off. I am easy to reach. I will listen to you, and I will come find out what is wrong. If it's just a single case, my office will get that message to me, and I will speak with you. You have to, when you get a sense of people here, you have to use your instinct and your gut. Who sounds like they're really caring about what they're talking about and talking to the people? I work very, very hard, and I will listen to you, and we'll take care of you.
Representative, same question, please.
Well, thank you for the question, and this is where I will excel. I love constituent services. It's the favorite part of my job down in Columbus at the State House. When somebody calls my office, I help them. I call them back. I call them back on my personal cell phone. And if they need me again, I give them my number and tell them to call me back. I always reach back out to my constituents. You know, Bill Johnson did a great job at being accessible and responsive. And that's what that's what our next congressman needs to be as well, accessible and responsive. And that's what I am at the State House, and that's what I'm going to be as the next congressman. Again, one story I would share if I had 5 minutes is a story about a constituent who had a rare form of cancer, and his insurance company continued to deny him coverage. I got him coverage and saved his life. It was the most wonderful thing ever. So that's what I intend to do as your next congressman as well.
Representative, will stay with you with a question from Dylan.
There are reports of a growing national housing crisis, including a shortage of affordable homes to rent or buy. We are witnessing this in Ohio. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Dylan, for the question. And as I travel up and down the 11 counties, that is what I am hearing. We don't have enough housing. We have a housing shortage. What can we do to bring developers in to our communities? Developers don't want to come into our communities. We're too rural, whatever it might be. Housing costs too much. This is another big thing I hear. Houses cost too much. The price of housing has gone up. And I'll tell you why the price of housing has gone up is because Congress and Biden have spent so much money in the last 4 years. Inflation is through the roof. Property values are through the roof. People can't afford to build a house. I'm in the building materials business, and I can tell you that building materials have tripled over the last 4 years. We've got to get these costs down. We've got to get inflation down. We've got to get more housing for our constituents.
Dr. Tsai, same question.
Well, I'm going to go back to Steubenville, Ohio, where we have the 800 abandoned homes. Many of them are filled with drugs, and others are just decaying. Many cities are like that. Again, I want to offer no or low interest loans to beautify those homes and bring people back. There are many homes all through our eastern swath here of our districts that can be helped with that. And again, to Reggie's point, when we bring energy independence back to America, and again, we're going to be a big part of that with the gas under us, all those prices of building materials are going to go down because it costs so much to even ship them. So we're going to offer no or low interest loans as an enticement for people to get into those homes.
And Doctor, we'll stay with you. The next question will come from Jamie.
The U.S. has been engaged in significant military operations, including combat, nearly continuously since 9/11. This has become the new normal. Is this acceptable?
So if there's a need, we will be there for other parts of the world. But other countries really have to start stepping up. There's two ways that you can help and when people need money for weapons or war. You can do it all yourself, or you can demand the other countries that benefit either stop dealing with with your enemy by still buying oil from them or buying goods from them. So you ask other people to pitch in you ask them to pitch in. We give them money, but we have to curtail the spending by asking other countries to help.
Representative, same question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, we're talking about Ukraine here, and two words for you: America first. We've sent $100 billion to Ukraine, and what have we got to show for it? What is the goal in Ukraine? It's a terrible conflict going on, but we continue to want to send money to the Ukraine. Now, what people don't know is that some of that money was earmarked to secure Ukraine's border. Now, if you hear that correctly, secure Ukraine's border, that should infuriate you because our southern border is not being funded. We need to put America first and secure our southern border before we secure another country's border. It's time we stop being the world's police. Everybody in NATO, by the way, needs to pay their fair share as well. And when I'm your next congressman, I'm going to work with President Trump to make sure that the nations that are involved in NATO are paying their fair share.
Rebuttal.
Didn't know we were talking about Ukraine. Ukraine, that's kind of the situation I was talking about. There are still countries buying Russian oil. We need to stop them from doing that and cut off their supply, not just put in the one side of the country, put our money there, We have to stop other countries from funding Russia. Israel and Palestine, that's simple. One side wants to kill the other. Palestine was given 5 chances for peace, and they turned it down. If you had Palestine drop its weapons today, there would be peace. If you had Israel drop its weapons today, there would be mass genocide.
Next question will come from Dylan. We'll start with you, Representative.
Representative Stoltzfus, every single day, Ohio businesses must balance their books, and Ohioans must not overspend their family finances. Yet in the last 50 years, the federal government has had only 5 balanced budgets and none since 2001. How can this be corrected?
Well, Dylan, thank you for the question. The federal government is $34.2 trillion in debt. You are correct. And we are all in this room expected to balance our budgets, expected to pay our taxes. And if we don't, what happens? The government comes and takes our stuff away. The federal government, we should expect no less out of them. First of all, we need a balanced budget amendment. Second, we need to balance our budget. The American people deserve better. And it's very important to me. This is second on my priority list, is fix our economy, balance our budget. As your next congressman, I'm going to work hard to get a balanced budget, because if we don't get our fiscal house in order, our kids, our grandkids, they're not going to have to deal with a $34 trillion debt. They're going to have to deal with a $134 trillion debt, and there's no climbing out of that.
Doctor, same question.
First thing we're going to do, I keep going back to energy independence. We were at a point where we had a surplus, and we were selling our energy overseas. You cannot imagine, with a surplus like that, how this whole environment can change once we're exporting our energy. So that's going to help. But then we have to stop government overspending. I mean, they just hired, what, 70,000 IRS agents? So what is up with that? I'm going to push for smaller government, and we're going to try to decentralize government and try to bring more power back to the states. But lastly, I want to talk about the illegal aliens that are coming across, decimating our healthcare system. They're not paying into Social Security. We are paying more and more as we're supporting this whole group of people. White, black, Hispanic, Asian. I'm not racist. It's a math problem, and the math just doesn't add up. We can get this under control, people. Get me in, and I'll help fix it.
Doctor, we'll continue with you with a question from Jamie.
Dr. Tsai, there are areas in the 6th Congressional District with limited or no broadband and or cellular service. How do you propose to increase the availability of both?
So first of all, when you build a business, you go knocking on doors. I will go personally meet with these companies and tell them the opportunities they have here. And I will give them incentives to come and put their towers here. So I know that it's important because we have people, the community thrives on the internet. And even older people now are using the internet. So without that, we need more broadband, and I will get it done.
Representative, same question.
Well, thank you for the question. This is a difficult question because we're talking about wires going over hills in rural areas, and that's why it's a difficult question. You know, the best scenario that I have heard is Starlink as being used as an option for internet. Now, if we could get Starlink to work with municipalities, where municipalities could contract with Starlink and get internet in an entire municipality, that would be wonderful. That's something I would love to work towards. But internet is tough in rural areas. But you know, we're gonna look at all the options, and we're gonna find the best option, because internet is used every day, and we've got to make sure our schools, we've got to make sure our libraries have access to it. And I didn't mention it at the beginning of this, but I want to give a shout out to students from East Palestine High School and teacher Jason Pancake for bringing the students here tonight. That's totally awesome that you brought students out here. Thank you.
Thank you. Both of you. Thank you.
And we'll stay with you, Representative. The next question will come from Dylan.
Representative Stoltzfus, reporting indicates Americans have lost confidence in many public institutions. How do we turn this around?
Well, thank you, Dylan, for the question. And people have lost confidence, not only in our elections, but in our politicians. And I go back to Larry Householder at the State House. He took a $60 million bribe to pass legislation to bail out some energy companies. And people lost confidence in the State House when Larry Householder was arrested, and he got 20 years in the federal pen for that. People lost confidence in our election system when, voting machines are said to be not working correctly. And it takes a week to find what the winner of the race is, like what happened in 2020. People lose confidence in our election systems. To gain our confidence back, we need to have the winner of the election that night of the election. That's one thing that will help gain confidence in our electoral system. Thank you for the question.
Doctor, same question.
Also, I would like to thank the majority of this audience from East Palestine, the people that got sick and lost their homes. We have Lonnie sitting there that lives at ground zero. She looks like she's getting upset because she lost her home. She's paying 2 mortgages. Actually, her home was paid off. I apologize. She now pays a $1,500 mortgage with no help from Norfolk Southern and doesn't know how she's going to make it. So thank you so much for all of you from East Palestine that have come to support me. Secondly, how we get back to election integrity? Simple. Paper ballots. Serialized, watermarked. You get a tear off for you to know who you voted for. And those countings are videotaped as they're being counted. And it's as simple as that. People, if France can do it in 24 hours, we can do better.
Doctor, we'll stay with you. The next question coming from Jamie.
Dr. Tsai, what are your thoughts on U.S. agriculture and farm policy?
So, first of all, we have to stop these solar farms from taking their land. Secondly, I'm half Chinese. No Chinese companies buying up farmland. I also want to incentivize the workers that don't want to use the genetic crops and they want to build organic farms. We eat organic, and I think all people should have a chance to do that. And when there's more farms that are free range and organic, those prices are going to come down. Unfortunately, cancer is 1 in every 2 men and 1 in every 3 women in the United States. We have one of the highest cancer rates. And the chemicals that make these plants hardy are also the ones that are damaging us.
Representative?
Well, thank you for the question. And as a farmer myself, I'm a member of the Farm Bureau, and I listen to what the Farm Bureau says because its membership is farmers. And one thing I will say that we need to do is we need to keep our CAUV taxes very low on farm ground. This helps farmers when it comes to tax time. It gives them a savings on their taxes, and we need to make sure that we keep our CAUV savings and not only keep it, but we should also look at lowering it. So that's one thing to help farmers. Again, we need to protect Ohio farmland from foreign interests. That's a big thing as well. We've dealt with that at the State House. We're trying to get foreign interests out of buying farmland because every acre we lose is food off the table at the end of the day. So as your next congressman, I'm going to fight to protect our farmers. I'm going to fight to protect their farmland and keep their taxes low.
Representative, rebuttal, please.
So I'm not a city boy. I grew up in the country playing in creeks. My summer jobs were shoveling horse stalls and throwing hay. So I was surrounded by 3 cornfields. So I want to make sure you don't misunderstand me. I do not mean if you're a traditional farmer that I'm against that. I'm offering options for organic farmers, and I will fight for farmers because they are the lifeblood of our nation.
And for the next question, we're going to start with you, Representative, and the question will come from Dylan.
How big of a problem is sex trafficking, and does Congress have a responsibility to address it?
Thank you, Dylan, for the question. I believe sex trafficking is a big problem. Bigger problem than what the general public really understands. We don't see it. It's one of those hidden things. And again, I go back to the southern border. This is happening a lot in our southern border. Cartels are bringing kids, women across the border, trafficking them. And we've got to stop this from happening. We've got to get away from Biden's failed policies where he's got an open border. And we've got to get back to what President Trump had enacted. We've got to finish the wall. That's going to stop a lot of this trafficking of kids and women. It's got to stop. And it starts at the border, building the wall, finishing the wall, and sealing our border.
Doctor, same question.
Voters of D6, this is one that is near and dear to my heart. I'm very close with people on the undercover task force in Cleveland for child sex trafficking and sex trafficking in general. I can't tell you the stories that they tell me because they're too gruesome. I've been invited to go on a sting operation with them, haven't done it yet, but I will. And I will bring the hammer down on these sick individuals. You have my promise. You hurt a child, I'm coming after you.
Doctor, next question will stay with you. The question will come from Jamie.
The U.S. military has fallen dramatically short of its recruiting goals. Today, the U.S. military is at its smallest size since before World War II. Is this concerning?
It is concerning. And it's because of the woke ideology of the military now. So the military used to attract athletes, again, not a cool word these days for a lot of people, but the more macho person who wanted to get into the military. They don't want to go into the military anymore because it's not what it used to be. The woke ideology of the military, where they have to deal with the things that they're dealing with, they're afraid they're going to get in there, they're going to get in trouble, something is going to go wrong, and it's also underfunded. We need to fund our military, but we need to change the whole atmosphere of the military and get back to toughness, tough love through strength.
Representative, your response?
I like your answer, Rick, and I agree. It's the woke ideology of not only our military, but also our culture. We're raising kids that don't want to be in the military. We're raising kids that hate America. We've got to raise kids that want to fight for America, that want to be G.I. Joe, that want to fight for our country. We've got to get back to that. This woke nonsense has got to go. We've got to stop it. It's in our schools. It's in our universities. We've got to make it go away. We've got to fund our military. And again, we don't want to bring back the draft. It starts in the homes. It starts in the schools. It starts getting these kids wanting to serve our country. And I know I'm not out of time, moderator, but I'd like a rebuttal here for myself personally.
Rebuttal.
So one person that is not here is our friend Mike Rulli from Youngstown. And Mike, I wish you were here to answer some questions for us. We just got done talking about woke ideology. You sponsored Senate Bill 11 and Senate Bill 119. Senate Bill 11 would have forced domestic violence shelters to house biological males, or they would lose state funding. Senate Bill 119 would have forced biological women to be in the same bathrooms with men, be in the same dorm rooms with men. You authored these bills. Can I get another rebuttal?
We've actually run out of time. I'm sorry, Representative. We're at the end of the program, and so now we're going to have to go to closing statements. So all the rebuttals have expired at this point. The candidates drew cards earlier to determine the order of closing statements. Dr. Tsai, you go first.
Voters of D6. In my local town, my hometown of East Palestine, Ohio, I'm known as the Creek Ranger. Because for the last year, I have fought a multi-billion-dollar railroad, fought the corrupt CDC, the EPA, and the federal government. As I would go in those creeks, I would risk my life exposing the lies of the EPA. And many credit me for the EPA having to extend its map of contamination. When the CDC told doctors not to test people of East Palestine, I defied their guidelines and I tested them. And many of them came up with high levels of those chemicals on the train in their bodies. And people said to me, Rick, shut up. They're going to ruin you. They're going to squash you. But I could not, in the face of such injustice, be quiet. You know why? Because evil will triumph when good men do nothing. In my 30s, I built one of the largest chiropractic offices in the entire nation. I know how to run a business. I know how to get things done. I know how to communicate, and I'll work across the aisle. So people say you got to send more good people into government. Reggie's a good man, and I assume Michael Rulli's a good man, and they're great at what they do. In business, we don't fire great people. Why don't you honor them by keeping them in the seats that you gave them, and then they can keep doing what they're doing? Like Forrest Gump says, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. What are you going to get in a special election? It's going to bring more chaos. Send me to Washington. I will fight harder than anybody you've ever seen. In the words of Rowdy Roddy Piper, I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. And Reggie, when I win, it's going to be nice working with you.
Representative, you have 2 minutes.
Yes, well, thank you all for watching at home, and thank you for the studio audience, and thank you, Mark, Dylan, and Jamie, for moderating this. You know, you've heard from 2 people here. It was supposed to be 3, but now it's 2 on many different topics. We come from different backgrounds, of course, and we have a different vision for the 6th District. But I think what this race comes down to is trust. Trust. Trust on who will stand on conservative principles when they get to Washington. Who will do what they say they're going to do when they get to Washington? Trust that we are who we say we are. You can go to my website, reggieforohio.com, to learn more about me and about the conservatives that are backing me, like Congressman Warren Davidson, General Michael Flynn, a former aide to President Trump, Ken Blackwell. These guys have endorsed me because they know that I'm going to fight to secure our border. I'm going to fight to stop the out-of-control spending. And I'm going to unleash gas and oil in eastern Ohio so that we can all have a brighter future. You know, I've been down at the State House for 5 years, and I've passed some great legislation. I was the author of the Save Women Sports Act, which keeps men out of women's bathrooms and restrooms. I authored that bill. I've expanded parents' rights. I've also fought the governor when it came to COVID mandates and shutdowns. If you remember when the governor shut down all the businesses, that was terrible, and we fought that. We're never going to have that again if another pandemic comes. I've been endorsed by the Ohio Right to Life. The NRA and the Buckeye Firearms has given me an A rating. Ohio Gun Owners has given me a 100% rating. CPAC, as I said earlier, has given me a 100% rating. They're a conservative think tank, one of the best in the country. I'm Reggie Stoltzfus. I'm running for Congress. I'm a husband, father, farmer, small business owner. I'm asking for your vote and prayers. God bless you, and God bless America.
This concludes tonight's debate. We'd like to thank the candidates for their participation. Gentlemen, good luck in your campaigns. We'd like to thank Eastern Gateway Community College for hosting us. A big thanks to Jamie Baker and Dylan Cleland for serving as tonight's panelists. And thank you at home for joining us. And now a bit of advice. You've heard what these candidates had to say, but it holds no value to you unless you vote. So take a friend, a neighbor, a coworker, a relative, go to the polls to vote next Tuesday and in November. Make certain you watch the WTOV 9 News for coverage of this debate and all the day's breaking news. Please log on to Facebook.com, WTOV9, and tell us who you think won tonight's debate. In closing, we'd like to salute our military, law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, and other frontline healthcare workers for the service to our communities and our nation. I'm Mark Hyman. Good night.
The woke agenda endangers our children. But Michael Rulli is part of the problem. Rulli actually supported allowing men to use women's bathrooms. Michael Rulli, woke, liberal, wrong.
As a father of 2 daughters, it's my duty to keep them safe. I led the fight to keep men out of women's sports, and I certainly won't allow men in women's bathrooms. The safety of our children comes first. I'm Reggie Stoltzfus, and I approve this message.
Nearly 2/3 of 4th graders in the U.S. are struggling to read at grade level.
Simply having access to books helps children become more successful in school and beyond.
WTOV 9 is celebrating National Reading Month by partnering with Reading is Fundamental. And our parent company, Sinclair, for Sinclair Cares, supporting children's literacy.
Scan this QR code to join our virtual book drive.
Just $4 can put a new book into the hands of a child.
Donate today.
Did you see that? Hear that? Feel that? Is this how you prove you earn the crown?
Winning is in his DNA.
How you shut up the haters?
I love it.
Handle the heat?
Who's going to make the move?
It's going to be a must-win.
Is this a shooting star? Rock star? Superstar? Okay. Let's all take a deep breath. Because once we peel out, there's no looking back. You ready?
They're coming from all across the country.